Hello and welcome to Ivycreates. Today we're going to be doing an arrangement with flowers from my yard, and we have a hurricane coming, Hurricane Zeta, and she's going to be blowing away everything in just a few short hours. This is the eve of Hurricane Zeta, and it didn't really get bad until it got really dark. Now I had to go back through this, and I apologize because you're going to be seeing me mouth words, but I'm going to be doing a voiceover instead. And the reason why is because after reviewing the video, it was so windy out because the hurricane was starting to come in, and my dogs were so obnoxiously loud that I figured, it was probably best that I don't let you hear the dogs growling and playing. They were having a good time, and it was too good of a time, too close to the camera. So anyways, I want to go ahead and make this really cute little arrangement of flowers from my yard. I have the acacia flower, which is the yellow flower down there. I have some lemongrass underneath the acacia. And what I'm using right now is going to be gardenia leaves. And my gardenia is taller than my house, so I don't feel any guilt about cutting it back and using it for greenery. It's kind of like ligustrum, and it makes an excellent greenery. Please leave comments below if you have any thoughts about my video. I would greatly appreciate it. So I was listening. Now the purple things in the bucket, the short purple things, are called, a lot of people call that ageratum, and it's also known as blue mist flower. And I'd heard that just recently on the radio with our local radio gardener guy. And then the tall flowers are going to be Monte Cassino asters that also grow wild around here. And I actually got them from a ditch down the street. They were beautiful and blooming out in the ditch, and I really wanted to just enjoy them because I knew the hurricane would destroy them. And the little flowers, the flowers that I knocked over, or just the wind knocked over, those are my Confederate roses, and I'd picked some of those. They only last for about a day usually, and I also got some other things, some spring rye fern, which I'll show you in a bit. Please subscribe, like, comment, click that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our videos. You can see my little lefty dog down there on the bottom right of the screen. He is going to be assisting me along with the other two, Tank and Lucy. There will be pictures of them at the very end of this video so you can see why I had to go ahead and do a voiceover rather than just talk to you like I would normally do. Next time I do a video, I will be keeping them inside while I'm outside doing a video. And it was delightfully windy. It felt good. It was a nice cool afternoon as the storm was coming in, and you can see I underestimated the storm because I did very little storm prep. I didn't take down all my wind chimes or my moss hangers or anything like that, but I did go ahead and make this arrangement. And I'm putting the gardenia leaves down way low, and the container that they're in is like a hurricane candle container, but it's a pedestal. So you normally put a candle down in the middle of this instead of putting flowers and water like I'm doing. And I want it low because I'm trying to make it look like a topiary since it's in a pedestal container. So just deciding which ones to use. And the first ones I'm going to use are my acacia flowers. And I have a huge acacia tree. The clouded sulfur butterflies love to land on there and have their eggs. Another thing about the acacia is that the leaves, actually, when there's a storm coming or it's nighttime, they kind of close up. And then in the morning when the sunlight's bright, they lay out flat again. So you can see the leaves had already started to kind of close because they knew the storm was coming. I think it's just the humidity and the pressure and everything that they do that. So what I do when I'm arranging flowers is I make sure that anything that goes under the water is going to have the bottom leaves removed. And please do, try to use a knife or another way to cut them, like scissors or something. Cut them with something sharp if you can. when the woody stems, a lot of times I break those in pieces, and it's just easier to do that way. So I'm going to be stuffing all of this beautiful acacia flower down in the very bottom. And another thing about acacia that I have found, and I'm curious to know if you find this, if you have acacia, this is also known as cassia. It's got several different names. Most flowers do. They have either several common names, or in addition to 2 to 3 Latin names. So Latin names also are what makes up of a flower. So the acacias, I found that the bees are okay with, but butterflies don't really bother with the acacia flowers. I don't know why. And the butterflies, the only thing that I've ever seen them do is lay eggs on an acacia. They never use the pollen, never go to the flowers. I don't know why. Whereas the other flowers that I have handy, the blue mist flower and the asters, bees and butterflies absolutely love them. And I did actually, the day after the hurricane, I did take this arrangement back outside and let the bees enjoy some of it, since they had such a hard evening. And I knew my flowers wouldn't be, they would be all beat up and everything, and the bees wouldn't be able to get much from them. So, got to treat my bees kindly. So you can see I'm just cutting this off, trying to get everything as low as I possibly can into the vase. And I didn't fill it completely with water while I was working with it, because it's just easier to wait till the very end to fill it all the way to the top. Now, the acacias will last a few days, but those blue mist flowers and the Monte Cassino asters, they last for a very long time, because, as you know, flower shops do use them, so they do last for a very long time. The acacia does, it's like each flower blooms out, and then it might drop, and a new flower will bloom out, so it'll bloom for a little while. Now, the Confederate rose, which is the pink flowers on the table, they don't last long at all. Now you could take this, put the acacias in, and just leave it just like that, and it would be absolutely perfectly beautiful. You don't have to do another thing to it unless you want to. But I was just wanting to play around and do something a little different. So that's what we were going to do, something you could use for a banquet, or, I mean, of course you could leave it just like it is and do that too, but that flower that I have in my hand was just something else that I'd found that I thought was really cool. It was like little balls, but I couldn't find any that was in really good shape. So these flowers are really bloomed out, and like most things, they bloom from the tip down the stem, so the tips end up going bad before the rest of the flower does. So you can just pinch it off if you want. Please subscribe and click that notification bell, and watch our videos. Now, the blue mist flower, I've heard that it also comes in white, and I've heard that somebody was trying to breed it and do like a russet red. So if you hear anything differently, if you know any different names of it, please leave a comment below and let me know, or even the asters. Leave a comment below and let me know what you think their names are. So you can see Miss Lucy in the background. She's chasing cars, as we do live in the country and we don't get many visitors, so my dogs go crazy when they see a car pass by. I live on a dead-end road, so it's quite unusual. So you can see my vase. It's got all the beautiful acacia flowers that are bright, bright yellow in the bottom. And I'm going to start adding more to it. Now, what I'm pulling out is called spring rye or asparagus fern. It is not asparagus. It is just, some people call it asparagus fern. It does have thorns on it. That is the difference, because asparagus fern does not. Real asparagus does not have thorns. And this stuff has got really hard thorns, and you can see me grabbing it with my hands. It's only because I know how to grab it and where to grab it. I would suggest to you that you strip it with something before you start fooling with it so you won't be, stabbed with the thorns, because they can be quite painful. And they're all along the stem of it, so you got to be careful. Now, I prefer not to strip as much as I possibly can, because stripping a flower, you injure the stem of the flower all the way down as you strip it. So unless it's going in the water, I try not to strip it, because then you have air going in and it won't last as long. Very technical stuff, but that's the reasoning why. So I'm just going underneath the acacia, and I'm adding some of this asparagus fern, some beautiful flowy looking, because when you do something like this, especially if you do something really low or a topiary type, you want to have some flowing stuff coming off of it, so it's just kind of romantic looking or graceful. And a little bit of that bright light green asparagus fern does a great job, or spring rye fern as I call it. I don't know, I know it's a spring rye fern, and it's spelled differently than it sounds, but I don't know exactly what the Latin name is on it. So now I'm going to go back and start adding my blue mist flower, which is like a cornflower, purpley blue, but it's like a lavender purpley. It looks like a powder puff. Like you could just put it on your face and it would be a powder puff. Don't try that. But yeah, that's what it looks like. So I'm going to go around the base underneath the acacia, and I'm going to put this around the base, and I'm not mixing in. You'll notice that I have the acacia flowers in one spot, and I'm going to have these flowers in one spot to make it more tiered looking, and that's more of a formal type design, not such a wildflower design like I did on my last video. This is more of a formal design. So if you were doing a party or something in your yard or your house or what have you, and you wanted to go around your yard and pick out some pretty flowers, I do recommend picking them first thing in the morning before any heat comes on them or anything. So early in the morning, put them in a bucket full of water, and I say a bucket full, don't put it too much water, but fill the bucket about maybe a third full. Put the flowers in there, let them soak up some water for a couple of hours inside, and then go and start designing with them. And that way you'll know by then which flowers are going to last and which flowers are not. Because a lot of wildflowers are not used in bouquets for, for florists and such, because they don't last long once they're cut. Or they just don't last long at all. I mean, think about a hibiscus, which I believe the Confederate roses are somewhat related to. They only bloom once, and that's it. They bloom one day, and that is it, and then they're gone. So with that type of flower, florists, as much as we would love to, our Confederate roses look like big peonies. They look just like peonies, but they're way big. And I wish they last more than a day, but they don't. So, so you do have to be careful that you know how long something will last being cut. And so I recommend, before you have a party, try a couple of arrangements on your own, and do use everything in your yard that you can think of. Any kind of greenery or shrubs or flowers that you may have. You can use what's in your yard, and you don't necessarily have to have flowers to make a beautiful arrangement. You can use just greenery. If I wanted to, I could use greenery and some of that Spanish moss that's hanging behind me and make something absolutely stunning without having a single flower. So it's also important, when I plant my yard, I plant it according to how I'm going to use it, because I use it as a cutting garden. And planting a lot of variegated type bushes, and I have all kinds of things like the black diamond, red crimson crepe myrtles, and their leaves are really purpley black, and I have a lot of red, and I have some Japanese maples that are different colors, and a lot of variegated. You can put variegated pittosporum, all those good things, and those are all wonderful to pick and choose from or to cut, and as well as mosses, and like I have Spanish moss everywhere, but a lot of things like that. Please leave a comment below. Let me know how you like this video. And like I said, I do apologize. I did this right before the hurricane. And so it was just got too windy. And I didn't even realize it until after I filmed it and I came inside. And of course the power's been out for a week and a half or so. And, it just came back on, and then the internet was a few days later. So I'm just getting around to finalizing this video for you guys, because I had to be camping for a little while, which is perfectly fine. You know, we on the coast get super excited when a hurricane comes. It's just one of those things. I usually don't sleep for a couple of days because I get so hyped up about it. And it's scary. It's interesting. It's like watching a good horror movie. But we love it. I was born in a hurricane. I, have survived many hurricanes. And so it's just part of life down here on the Gulf Coast. So I live about 10 minutes from the beach. And when you're cutting your flowers, try to cut the stems at an angle with a knife. That gives them more surface area to be able to soak up water. So I take my dogs for rides almost every single day. And we've been riding around looking at the damage. And the damage has been a lot more than we thought it would be. So it has turned out that it is, there are many, many oak trees, huge, live oaks that are really old, and they all split and came apart. And I think that has to do with perhaps Katrina injured them, and then Zeta, gave them the double punch, and they were just like, oh, I give up. So they've locked it down. So now you can see I'm putting around the base all of my beautiful blue mist flowers, and it's adding to the color scheme. Most of the colors that bloom in the fall for us, for some reason, are I don't know. For some reason, all of our wildflowers tend to be yellow or purple. Yellow, purple, or white. And in the spring, we get a lot of white. And in the fall, it's mostly yellow and purple. And, that should be appropriate since we do live in an area that celebrates Mardi Gras. And if you don't know what Mardi Gras is, go Google it, look it up. It's a fun time. You'd enjoy it. It's the largest free party on the face of the earth. And we do parades and we throw a lot of beads. And I've ridden in parades. I rode in Metairie when I used to live in New Orleans. I rode in the Metairie Irish Italian parade, and that one is a really, really unique parade. And the colors of Mardi Gras, the reason why I bring this up, is the colors of Mardi Gras are purple, green, and gold. So now you can see how these kind of look. I tried to show you. They're very soft looking. But purple, green, and gold are Mardi Gras colors. And the Irish Italian parade that I rode in, we actually threw vegetables because it's something to do with making Irish stew and all that business. But you throw cabbages and potatoes and onions and all these wonderful things to make a soup out of. So it's a really fun parade to ride in. I highly recommend it. There's nothing better than throwing produce at people with baseball gloves that are waiting out there to catch it. And, of course, our regular parades, we all throw beads and many other things. So I think I put all the purple around the bottom pretty much that I need. It looks good, hanging down and all that good stuff with my spring rye fern. So the last part that I'm going to do to this arrangement is I'm going to add a topper piece that's going to look like kind of like a topiary. You can use whatever you want to use for different things. I will say this, I wanted to make it a different height and give it some height. You could have used something very round, balls or anything at the top for flowers, and that would have been just fine too, but this just happened to be what I have, and I'm all about working with what I have. So I'm using the asters as the top of my topiary, and how I'm going to do that is I'm going to put my asters together, and I'm making sure I strip the leaves off the bottom that is going to be in the water, and I'm going to hold all these asters together, and then I was wrapping them with grass. Now, I will tell you this, it is late in the season, and most of the grass, especially my lemongrass, which smells wonderful, by the way, is kind of dying back. So I usually cut it down in the winter because it starts looking really brown. So I do recommend actually wiring it together and just using the grass as a cover-up, not as a way to bind it together. But I wanted to show you, if you wanted to use strictly what you have, then you can just use a piece of grass to wrap it up tight and make it pretty. So I wrap the grass around the stem, which you'll see in just a minute as I'm putting all of these asters together. Yeah, I kind of felt guilty about cutting these. I had some in my yard, but it wasn't ready for them. They weren't quite blooming yet. A couple of days after the hurricane, they were blooming like crazy. But immediately after the hurricane, there were no flowers anywhere because the hurricane had blown all the leaves off of everything. And so I kind of felt guilty about picking these. I'd been passing them for a few days, and they were so beautiful. I was like, I know the hurricane's going to knock them out, so I had to go ahead and do it, and it's okay because the bees ended up enjoying it anyways. Currently, it's not hurricane anymore, but tropical depression maybe will be Hurricane Ada or Etta, whichever way you want to put it. She is also going to be visiting the area soon. We've had just one storm after another storm, coming close to us. I mean, Zeta was the first one we've had hit landfall here and really just, decimate us, for the year. And it did cause a lot of problems. I will say I'm very thankful I didn't have a single shingle missing off of my house. And, because I'd lost my entire house during Katrina, and I lived much closer to the beach. But the only thing we did lose, we lost a lot of trees, a lot of tree limbs, and I had been working since I didn't have power in the house anyways, I couldn't work on the internet. But I'd been working out in the yard for days and days, cutting trees and cutting limbs and all that good stuff, trying to get it cleaned up. So Ada may come close to us. They don't really know where she's going yet, but she may come close. I'm in Long Beach, Mississippi, and I'm 45 minutes from New Orleans and about an hour and 15 from Mobile, Alabama. So we're just along the coast, right in the middle of everything. So you can see I'm wrapping the grass, and I'm just wrapping it around the stem, trying to make it as tight as possible. And also my puppy dog Lefty is down at the bottom of the screen, and he is pulling the lemongrass off the table so he can eat it. My dogs love to eat lemongrass and goldenrod. I guess it helps with their stomach. I don't know, but some habits carry on from dog to dog. It's my oldest dog. He's the one who started that business. He would eat the lemongrass, and he loves peppermint, which is Tank just went by, and so did Lucy. Tank is the one with the orange collar. He's my oldest, and he is a Boxer Mastiff mix. He's huge. So you can see I'm just wrapping the grass, and then I'm tying it tight like in a knot. You could do a lot better with that earlier in the season, and I do recommend, like I said, using a piece of wire to tie it tight, and then just tying the grass as a decoration only. But I was actually using it as a tie. So I'm just kind of measuring to be where do I want it, how high do I want it. Wanted to make sure that I've got the stems at the right length. And you can see the wind kind of picking up. If you stay tuned to the end of this, I do have a short video when the hurricane started coming in before it got dark, because we didn't get the really bad stuff until it got dark. and then it was just pretty severe. And then I have some pictures after of some of the things, like the boats that floated up onto the parking lots of some of the restaurants around town. You can see they floated a pretty good long way too. So stay tuned for the video followed by some of the pictures. Also, let me know. I did have a comment from one person last video, and she was like, well, the music was really distracting. She liked everything, but she said the music was so distracting, and I'm not using music this time, so let me know what you think, what your opinions are about having a little bit of music in the background. Maybe watch one of my other videos and see what you can find. As far as music goes, and because I always try to cut down the volume on the music and, increase the volume on the talking, because I know, of course, what you're here for, to hear my beautiful voice. Ha ha ha. Seriously though, I know you have to hear the instructions that I'm trying to give you, so if the music's too distracting, just let me know. Now you can see those asters are so pretty. They lasted for a good long couple of days. It was very difficult to keep anything going, being that I didn't have power, and because I do live, even though I'm 10 minutes from the beach, I technically live in the country, south of I-10, and I have a well, so if I don't have electricity, I don't have water. And that is the hardest part, is I couldn't water anything, and my orchids were really mad at me. So I'm just finishing up by tying a bow out of the grass, and this lemongrass is probably as tall as I am, and it was really pretty, and it does smell good. I like that too. I love to have herbs, and I love to use herbs in my arrangements, as well as things that will root. The gardenia pieces that I used, gardenia is very fast rooting, and the gardenia pieces will actually root very, very easily in water. So that is another aspect of using things from your yard, is you can oftentimes root things very quickly. Oh, and there go the puppy dogs. So I'm just making the woody stems a little bit shorter. And it's okay for them not to be a perfectly clean cut, because the more mashed they are anyway, since they're woody, the easier they'll be able to drink water. And you can see it does take a little effort to get it in there and get it right. And it was just a touch too long in my opinion. So I just made it a little bit shorter. There we go. Now it looks like a proper topiary. And you want to make sure, the reason why I'm cutting these little flower pieces off of the bottom, you want to have a definite separation between the top piece and the bottom piece in order to make that topiary type of idea. And sorry, got my head in the way. Got to do a little adjusting, and you can see by putting the greenery and the acacia and everything in the bottom, by the time when you add your greenery, the greenery is primarily to keep the flowers in place and to hide their stems, because you don't want to see any of the work that you have. You want to hide all the inner workings and only show the pretty parts. So make sure that you're when you put your greenery in, it's holding your flowers in place, and also hiding the stems, and that makes it look good. And you can see I kind of did a few little more adjustments on it, and it came out super cool. I really do like it. The pictures are also awesome that at the end, and you probably saw at the beginning as well. And I didn't end up using my Confederate roses for that. I just put them back in that little jar. Dipped some water. As you can see, I'm like conserving water. And put my pretty little Confederate roses in a jar. Gotta love mason jars. Always have mason jars around. They make excellent bouquet holders, especially if you're going to a friend's house, say for dinner or something like that, and you don't have something to bring, and you're a guest somewhere. You can always bring a little vase, a little mason jar of flowers, and that was me giving the rest of my lemongrass to my doggies. So all I did was just sit them in this mason jar really down low. And what that means is don't leave the stems too long. That way they can get plenty of water. And since these are really big moppy heads, I would do the same if I were using hydrangeas. I want them really short so that the heads can rest on the rim of my mason jar. And you see the wind is just a-rocking. Yes, I wish that peonies grew down here, but they clearly do not. We do have the Confederate roses, and they look a lot like them, even though they don't last very long at all. And but that's okay. We have some things, and the people a little bit further north of us have many other things because we're tropical to subtropical in our area. And we can't grow things like lavender, which I would love to grow. And we can't grow things like lilacs and peonies and many other things that are really awesome to decorate with out of your yard. Those things just don't grow around here, but we have things that are similar or very close to in style what the Northerners have. It's just a little bit more tropical. Another thing about these Confederate roses, if you have those in your yard, and these are doubles, they also have singles. I've got a white one that's just starting to grow, and because I took a piece off of a tree down the street and put it in water, and it started rooting. And the Confederate roses do root very, very easily. So I took after the storm, I took all the stalks that were laying on the ground and stuff, because it's huge. I mean, my Confederate rose is massive. It's more like a size of a crepe myrtle, which is a small tree here. And so I had to do a lot of cutting on it, and I saved a lot of the pieces for my people in my Mississippi Gulf Coast Cutting and Plant Exchange, or Plant and Cutting Exchange, MS Gulf Coast. Can't ever remember the whole name, but it's a long name. So that was what I did with all the cuttings I'd gotten left over after the storm, is I tried to give them away to people that I knew would root them, and they would go on to be new plants. So now you can see the bouquet a lot better. And the little pink as well. And that is going to be our final product, except for my head in the way. And you'll see in just a few short minutes, we have a wonderful short video of Zeta and then a bunch of pictures. So those are my Monte Cassino asters. and you've got the acacia and the blue mist flowers and spring rye, and I used gardenia leaves as the greenery. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, leave us some comments, tell me what you think. Stay tuned for our Hurricane Zeta pictures, and please subscribe and leave comments. And that's all I can say. It's starting to get a little more wind and rain now. It's really starting to pick up. You can hear the wind high up in the trees. Here it comes. It's a tree shaker. Hear it? My beautiful acacia and all my pretty flowers bent over. But this little beauty is still kicking it on the porch.